Welcome back to another edition of the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. This is our wild card review, divisional round preview, and I'm Brad.
This is Zach calling in today,
and this is Hefe.
We're excited about what's going on. We let's get right into it, fellas. If we shall. It was a big playoff weekend. Let's kind of go over the games from last week as we talk about the matchups for this week. And obviously, the first one I want to talk about is what in the hell happened in Pittsburgh. Hefe, even as much as a Browns fan as you are and have been, and I know you've been on their side and you're against the Steelers, you got to be honest. Even you didn't see this coming.
Yeah, not without Kevin Stefanski. I thought for sure the Steelers were going to be able to win that game just because Stefanski's not there. But I made a social media post during that game that pretty much summed up how I felt about Stefanski. I thought he was already a good candidate for Coach of the Year, but the fact that he's in his first year with that team and they performed that well without him there. The play calling was still great without him there. The system that he has in place was able to work just as well, if not better, without him there. Apparently he was in practices all week. I don't know if he was, rolling around. Somebody had him on an iPad all week or something, but he was involved in practices all week. So he was still kind of there. But it worked out for him. And the Browns, obviously, getting up 28-0 in the first quarter. They almost lost it. It got a little scary there for a minute, but they kept to the run game. Nick Chubb ended up putting that game away late for them. So it was great for the Browns. We had the Bills and the Browns win in the same weekend. As much as that sucks because the Colts played the Browns. It's been a long time coming, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it really is cool. It was cool to see the Browns get on top like that, and I think they did almost lose it, but I think at that point I made a social media post at the end of the first quarter saying that the Browns game plan from here on out should just be to try to run out the clock. By that point they were up 35-3 or something. I don't remember what the score was, but it was enough that my joke was that they should just run the clock out, and I think that's kind of what they did. And there's an old saying, the prevent defense, well, the only thing it'll do is prevent you from winning. And it was close, but when the Browns offense needed to come up with something, in the end they did, and they finally put it away. So big win for them. Good as a Colts fan, right? They lost to the Browns, and I wasn't real sure where that sat in the grander scheme of things. But they lost to the Steelers. They shouldn't have lost to the Steelers. The Colts should have beaten the Steelers. You'd like to think they should have beaten the Browns, but I'm not real sure about that. But it tells me that the Colts fit in. They belong here. The Browns belong here. The Steelers, I concede to both you two, the Steelers are overrated. It seems like everything worked out as it should be, which brings us into this week. They're the lowest seed. They get the first round bye, and they get to play the Chiefs. Zach, do they have a chance to beat the Chiefs this weekend?
I don't see it happening. I think the Chiefs are favored by 10 points coming off a first round bye, the way the Chiefs have been playing all season. I know the Browns, they exceeded my expectations this last week. I almost thought for sure they were going to lose that game. But they came out, they beat the Steelers. Good for them. I see the hype train ending here with the Chiefs. I just don't see it happening.
What do you think, Hefe?
It'll be tough. It'll be real tough. But if you look back at the last half of the season for the Chiefs, they've played some really close games, even against some of the bad teams in the NFL. So either way, I expect this game to be fairly close, especially with Cleveland's run game. That's going to be the thing. If Kareem Hunt is the guy I'm watching, the ex-Chief, I think they're going to make a point to get him into the end zone in this game. They want him to do well against the Chiefs here. But Nick Chubb's a beast too. So, if they can run the ball, keep possession of the ball, keep it away from Patrick Mahomes long enough, and don't let that offense get into the kind of rhythm that lets them get 20 points in one quarter, then the Browns have a good shot here. The defense for the Browns is the issue. They give up a lot of points. They give up a lot of yards. So the offense is going to have to be able to put points on the board and going to have to be able to keep the ball because you can't expect defense to get 4 turnovers like they did against Big Ben and the Steelers last week.
So who you picking to win? The Chiefs?
I am going to have to pick the Chiefs in this game.
Well, they are you going to take the Browns on the spread then? It's a 10-point spread in Chiefs' favor.
I do think that the Browns are the bet right there. Yep.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
I mean, I could go either way. I can obviously see the Chiefs just blowing them out completely, but I could also see the Browns sticking in there too. So I don't know what to take on that line.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you, especially I agree with what you said first, Zach. I agree with what Hefe said, and then I agree with what you said last, Zach. This is a game that will either be a 41-10 blowout, or it'll be a dogfight. And in my opinion, this is all going to depend, like you said, Hefe. This is all going to come down to the Browns' offense. If they can keep the ball moving and increase their time possession, keep it out of Mahomes' quick strike hands, they can bring the score down and invoke some ball control and put sevens on the board. I'm not talking threes. You're not going to beat the Chiefs with field goals. It's just not going to happen. But I think if they can stay alive, they can win. But on the flip side, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and if you're down 21-0 halftime, you're screwed. It's over. They're just not going to come back from that kind of thing. So it'll be real interesting. It'll be real interesting to see what happens. But I myself would have to take the Chiefs on both bets to win outright and to on the spread there. So, but we all three agree the Chiefs are going to advance in the bracket, right?
Yep, that's what it seems.
Yeah, I think anybody who doesn't think that is a little foolish. And I'm gonna stop short of calling Cleveland fans delusional because I love Cleveland fans. I think they've kind of gotten shit on in the sports world for a long time, and I like them to be loud and proud and of their team and a little different than some other teams. I'd like to see them win, but I just don't see it happen, unfortunately. So
yeah, there are 2 fan bases that you just want to see have a good time right now. It's going to be the Dog Pound and Bills Mafia.
agreed.
They've waited 25 years for this opportunity. So
Yeah, for sure. So well, let's segue into that one then. Let's go with the the Bills are matching up against the Ravens, and the Bills and the Colts game last week. Obviously a heartbreaker for the three of us. We wanted to see the Colts win, but it seems to me, and the Colts had a good shot at winning, but what was the stat? I can't remember. The Colts are the first team to put up 450 yards and no turnovers and lose the game. Is that correct? First team in NFL history.
That is correct.
Yeah, so that tells me a couple things. One, the Colts had I don't want to say should have won. The Colts were in a position to win. And anybody who knows anything about coaching the right way, the whole goal is to always be in contention at the end of the game. Whether you're up or down, always be within reach of winning the game in the last quarter, the last couple minutes. And obviously with this stat, the Colts were there. Yeah, you guys either one have thoughts on this game before I continue?
Yeah, I got a couple things. First, the Colts' problem this last game against the Bills was number one. We and it's been a problem all season long, and we've talked about it. The Colts failed to put up touchdowns and relied primarily on just field goals, and so. When it comes to Frank Reich, there was a lot of backlash from the Colts fans after the game, and they were even calling for Frank Reich's firing, which I completely disagree with because of his poor play calling. And we even agreed as the game was going on, he was making mistakes when it comes to play calling. But it was the same aggressiveness that he had earlier in the season, and I think when you're opting to go for a touchdown instead of take the sure points, I think it's because he knows that it's been difficult to punch the ball in and get touchdowns. So in a playoff game, you have to try to take those risks to get it. So I understand him making the call instead of taking the field goal. to go for a touchdown. Ultimately, didn't work out for the Colts. Later on, Rodrigo Blankenship missed a field goal. Whole string of bad luck. There were bad play calls, but as a coach, you have to learn and grow. And I think ultimately down the road, it's going to make Frank Wright that much better. As far as the game itself, I have to give my hats off to the Bills. They hung in there. They did what they had to do to win. The Colts won in almost every offensive category, and the Bills somehow still pulled out a win. So hats off to them. That's really all I got to say.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. The story of the season. If you want to go and talk about every single loss that the Colts had, the 5 regular season losses and the playoff loss, if you look at all of them, you can say the Colts lost that game because they shot themselves in the foot. There wasn't anything the opposite team was doing. The Colts just couldn't execute when it mattered. Right there, there's costly turnovers sometimes, and fourth down stops sometimes. And I think the biggest thing in that Colts game to me was when Teray goes offsides on fourth down, and the Bills on that 96-yard drive, the Bills get 7 points instead of 3. Right, Tyler Bass probably hitting that field goal, so they still get points that drive, but because of the offsides, they get an extra 4 on that drive. Obviously, we've talked about the decision Frank Reich made. I wouldn't have had it either any other way, right? I would have called different plays, but I still would have went for it if I was him. There's been a lot of talk. You take a field goal instead of a touchdown. In the situation, I probably would have done the same thing. It's not often a team drives 96 yards for a touchdown, right? They expected to be able to get the ball back with as good as that Indy defense is. And look, the Bills made plays. The Colts defense played really, really well. But Josh Allen, there was a couple times when he got out of the pocket, got away from the rush, and made a really good throw down the field on the sideline. And they had a guy, Davis, number 13, who made a couple of really, really good catches on the sideline. Barely got his toes in bounds. I mean, they just made plays when it mattered, and the Colts didn't. And that's really what it comes down to. That's playoff football in a nutshell. You got to be able to execute, and that's how you end up being the team with 450 yards and you lose. Because if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe the Bills turned the ball over too. So it was a clean game by both teams. The best game of the weekend, in my opinion. I obviously didn't go the way we had hoped, but goddamn, what a game, what a season for the Colts. It's tough to be 11-5. You were 7th seed, you barely made it in the playoffs, winning 11 games. But it was a hell of a game, and I'm excited to see the Bills play again this weekend.
Yeah, so I great points by both of you, and it isn't Reich's fault. As Hefe, as you went into detail, there were a lot of other people who didn't execute like they should have. So there's a lot of things, and then there was other people on the other side of the ball that didn't execute. Zach, you made a great point about Reich's decision that I hadn't really given much thought about, but but I think you're absolutely right. He knows he's not going to win a Super. I mean, you came to win it all. And it's it's very similar to I was watching the Indianapolis 500. I think it was 1993. I think it was the last lap. Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi are side by side, and neither one of them backed off into the third turn. And they asked Al Unser Jr. and he said, "I came to win the race." I don't know his exact quote, but he said, "I knew both of us were going in, and only one of us was coming out, but he came to win the race." So I think Reich is a winner, and Reich knows what it takes, and he probably did know that kicking field goals it might have gotten you into next week, but it's not going to get you beyond next week. You're going into Kansas City, right? I mean, if the Colts win, they're going into Kansas City. You're not going to be Kansas City with field goals. So I think that's an excellent point. The other thing I want to point out about Reich is Reich is a new head coach. He still gets the opportunity to screw things up and go back and watch game film and realize Belichick wasn't the coach 25 years ago that he is right now. It just doesn't happen. And I have enough faith in Reich for him to go back to look and realize where he did and where he did not make a mistake. and those two things combined speak volumes for that guy. And the fans just piss me off to no end. I mean, calling for this guy. First of all, you wouldn't be in this situation in the first place if you didn't have this guy as head coach. Exactly. We've talked about this. This guy may end up being, before this is over, I'm telling you right now, I've said it like 3 times. I'll say it every freaking episode if you need me to. This guy will probably go down as the best coach in franchise history before this is all over. There's a lot to that, and I do know that, but he has the potential to certainly do that. We wouldn't be in this situation if it weren't for him. So don't be a dumbass. Don't call for his fire. That's bullshit. The other thing is I saw a lot of people say, well, I'm just happy we made the playoffs with the team we had this year. Are you kidding me? Seriously, I saw a lot of people say that. Those are people who don't understand football. People don't understand how good this team not only was. I don't want to use past tense because this is just the beginning of what's happening. This team had everything it needed to win the whole thing. And then that ties back in again with what you said, Zach, that he was like, this is not good enough. We have to practice. We have to practice this because we have to get it or it's going to be failed. And then, so what if we do make it the next week, but we didn't solve this problem, you know? So this team's stacked. They got their shit together. They got a GM's got his shit together. They got a coach that's got his shit together. Just ask Doug Peterson, right? Somebody send him some emails or tweet him and ask him what he thinks about Frank Reich, because he probably wishes he still had him right now as he's fishing with Bob. So this team is solid, man. We're going to have a lot to talk about in the offseason, which brings me also to it looks like, unfortunately, that Marlon Mack is not going to be a part of this organization anymore. I think that's one obvious by what we have is working, and you don't. That's a hard game to play, to bring somebody back when what you have is working, and then what if he doesn't work out? So I think it's probably the right move to let him go somewhere else and thrive and get a good contract, stick with what's working with us, and move forward. But we certainly want to wish Marlon Mack the best wherever he may end up.
Absolutely. Hey, man, another guy that's probably not coming back is going to be T.Y. Hilton. He spent 10 years here. He was drafted with Andrew Luck. Colts Nation loves T.Y. Hilton. We appreciate T.Y. Hilton, and this is probably was the last game that we see him in a Colts uniform. Him and Chris Ballard have both kind of acknowledged that without coming out right and saying that he won't be back. But like I said, Colts Nation appreciates and loves T.Y. Hilton, and hopefully he can go somewhere and win.
Yeah, and in that same breath, we feel the same way about Anthony Costanzo. He hung up his cleats and retired this year, and what a great career he's had, and he will certainly be missed. He will leave a hole that hopefully we can fill. But we want to wish him the best in his retirement as well. Now, I didn't comment on the Bills game. The flip side of this is that I do think the Bills were the better team. I think the Colts had the potential to be as good as the Bills, but I say if we stack everything up last week as it was, the Bills are a few steps ahead of where the Colts are. I think they're more prepared right now to win the Super Bowl this year. I think they certainly have a really good shot at the game this week when they're going to play the Ravens. So the Ravens come out of the game victorious against the Titans. You guys have any thoughts on that game?
Ravens looking good. I don't really have a whole lot to say. The Ravens, yeah, they just look good against the Titans. They came in there, they did what they had to do. They pulled out the win, and I'm sure we're getting ready to get to who we're picking, but I'm actually going to take the Ravens over the Bills this week because I think the Colts should have won last week against Buffalo, but Baltimore has been playing well the last 6-7 weeks, so I expect the Ravens to continue.
I'm not too far off from what you're thinking. I still think the Bills are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Until somebody beats them, I'm probably going to keep thinking that because, they're just so good all around. The defense has been playing better. Obviously last week Colts have 450 yards, but only get 24 points out of it. It's pretty good. And this is really going to come down to the good on good matchup. We have the Bills passing offense. the Ravens' passing defense. And obviously, that Ravens pass rush is going to be a part of that. But I trust the Bills' offensive line. I trust Josh Allen to be able to roll out of the pocket and be able to make plays. But without Zach Moss, they're bringing in Devontae Freeman. The Bills are as a backup with Zach Moss down for the rest of the season. But I just don't think the running game hasn't been something the Bills have been able to get going consistently. It's not something I expect them to be able to get going here. It's not clear whether it's going to be snowing or not. There's a chance that it's going to be snowing. It's obviously going to be a cold game, but I do think that the Bills are going to be able to pull this one out. I expect it to stay fairly close. I don't think either team is going to be able to pull away from the other here, but I do like the Bills.
I like the Bills too. I think so. I think Zach, you made a good point. Just talking about the Ravens. The Ravens obviously solved something this past weekend to slow down the high-powered Tennessee offense. So I guess the question for me is, was it a fluke? Was it tailor-made to the Titans? Did they solve their problem, or did they solve the problem against the Titans? Is it going to carry over to the Bills? Are they going to be able to stop Josh Allen? And I don't know that so I think the answer is that it's very possible, because I picked the Ravens to go 13-3 and win their division this year. And we've talked all year that they didn't live up to that hype. So I can't, and it took me a long time to switch from Ravens to Bills. Hefe just kept beating on me week after week after week after week about these Bills. And I'm finally on the Bills train. I don't know that after 1 week I can hop back off and hop back on the Ravens train. I think to keep this simple, either team is certainly capable of winning this game, more so than the Browns and the Chiefs game, right? But as of right now, with the way things are going, I'm going to have to go with the Bills taking this one out. I'm not real sure that the Ravens have all of their permanent problems fixed. If they do, all right. So the Colts proved something to me last week, because I fully committed to how good the Bills are, and the Colts could have beaten them. If the Ravens beat them, then I will certainly stand here next week and tell you they have a chance of beating the Chiefs. So that's kind of where we're at. I want to see what they're going to do, but for right now, I'm going to take the Bills.
Yeah, it can go either way. The Bills are the favorites by only 2.5 points. So it's really a toss-up. The Bills are at home, so you give them a 3-point advantage. Really, it's the Ravens that, in my opinion, have the shot to come out on top here. They've rushed for over 250 yards in like 5-6 straight games, something like that. So even if it is cold, as long as they don't fumble the ball and they get that ground game rolling like it's been rolling, it's going to be very tough on the Bills, especially if their defense steps up and holds Josh Allen. But I don't know. It could go either way. It's going to be a great game regardless.
So with that said, let's ask this. Hefe, high scoring game, low scoring game?
Ooh, what's the over under on this one, Zach?
49.5.
I'm going to take the under on that.
What about you, Zach?
I'm gonna have to go over. Yeah, even if it's a ground and pound kind of game, especially on the Ravens side, there's still. Lamar Jackson can break out for 80 yards like it's nothing and score a touchdown, or Josh Allen's more than capable of exploding at any given time. So I'm gonna take the over. I don't think it'll be by very much, but I'm gonna take the over here.
Yeah, so the fact that you two disagree on that highlight it kind of illustrates the conversation here, that both of you those really aren't solid educated guesses. You picked one because you can argue both sides of this. This will be interesting to see how this plays out, or just for that reason alone. So let's just let's hope for a good game. Let's hope it's as good a game as it appears it's going to be.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be the best game of the weekend, to be honest.
It very well could. Well, I don't know.
There's a Saints-Bucks game, but that's already played out twice this year. This one, I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. At least I hope it is. We'll let that one lie. All right, so let's talk about the Bucks. All right, let's talk about the Bucks and the Saints. I saw someone say that the Bucs Saints game should be on the History Channel.
That's messed up.
It actually, somebody had made a meme, and it showed Brady with a beard and Breeze with a beard. They were looking really, great beard, kind of like mine. It said that it was going to be on the History Channel, and I thought it was quite comical. And I thought, I don't know if you guys heard Romo talking about the other day. They were talking about both Breeze and Brady and their age and how old they were, and Romo, and he started talking about the genes, that they got the good genes, that they're in their 40s playing like, I don't know, they're like they're in their 20s, and he's like 40 going on 113 or something. I thought it was funny. And the interesting thing is Brady actually became the first player. He actually became the oldest player to ever throw a touchdown pass in the NFL. Did you know that?
Did not.
Yeah. So Brady threw a touchdown pass at 43 years and 159 days last week. The previous record had been set. Does anybody know who held the previous record? Anyone?
Ken Stabler, wasn't it?
Anyone? It's a good guess. Very, very, very good guess. It was actually George Blanda for the Raiders. He 43 years and 108 days. And the funny thing is as a kid, I thought George Blanda was like ridiculously old. Like he was like, as a kid in my eyes, he was like in his 60s. You know what I mean? And now I realize he was only 43 and 108 days when he threw his last touchdown pass, and I've exceeded that by a little bit. But anyway, so this is the game of the old men. I was a little worried about the Bucs with Washington last week, but in the end, they put it away when they had to. They really took care of the business, and we talked about that game might be close, simply because of Washington. And let's take a second again to praise Ron Rivera and Alex Smith. I mean, I'm just, damn it, I'm now a Washington football team fan. I've never been a Rivera fan. I've never really been a Washington fan, but I want these guys to win. I love, they turned it around. Rivera's fighting cancer. The guy's, freaking chemotherapy, and Alex Smith with everything he's gone through, and just to put it into to not only make the playoffs, but they made a game against a team that arguably has a shot of winning the Super Bowl. And damn it, I'm on board. And Zach is so enamored with this whole thing. He decided to move up there so he could be a huge Washington fan and go to the games.
Yeah, about an hour and a half south of him.
So he traded in his flip-flops for a Washington football jersey is what he did.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but it would be cool to go up there and check out a game, though.
Yeah, I'm definitely coming up to do that. I said we, because if Hefe wants to go, he can go. But if he doesn't want to go, I'm still coming. We're definitely going to the game. But so this game this week is the third time these teams are going to play. I don't even have anything cool to say around that, man. I don't know. I mean, the Saints beat the Bears. They should have beaten the Bears. Let's kind of throw that in there. And kudos to the Bears. I'm hoping the Bears. I'm really hoping the Bears. I hope they stick with Trubisky. I hope they're headed in the right direction. But anyway, back to this game. Saints and the Bucs. Third time they played. I wish I had this. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row and all that crap. There's no telling what's going to happen in this game. This could be a really, really, really good game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know which way to go with it either. New Orleans favored by 3. They're the home team, so really it's a toss-up. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the over-under is 52, so it's going to be a shootout. It'll be interesting to see who pulls it off. Ultimately, because the Saints manhandled the Bucs twice during the course of the regular season, I'm going to have to give the edge to them again, even though we say it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. It's even harder to beat them 3 times in 1 year. So I don't know. I'm just going with the Saints just to go for them because they're at home.
So there's a statistic out there that when a team beats another team twice in the regular season and then they play in the postseason, those teams are 14. The team that won 2 times wins a third time, 14 out of 21 times. So generally, obviously 2/3 of the time they get the win. And I don't expect that trend to change here. I think it's going to be 15-7 because the Saints are just better. The offense works better, which is crazy. But Sean Payton's a freaking genius, and that offense, it just works right with him and Breeze and Kamara and Thomas. It just works, and that defense is playing outrageous right now. You know, they have so many pieces. They can rush the passer, which is how they bothered Tom in the last game. They got after him all game long. I think that was the game Cam Jordan by himself had 3 or 4 sacks in that game. I expect him to be a problem in this game. There's a guy out for the Saints, Hendrickson. It's their right end, big old white dude, and he's not going to be here this game. That's going to affect the pass rush a little bit because that dude's really good too. But I don't think it's going to affect it enough to make a difference on how the whole game plays out. I think they're able to get after Brady still. I don't think the Bucs are able to run the ball a lot in this game. The Saints are really good at stopping the run, and I think that Marshawn Lattimore is going to do what he normally does against Mike Evans and just not let him catch the ball. Still not real sure why Mike Evans just can't catch the ball when he plays the Saints, but he can't. So one way or another, however it is, we've seen the Saints beat the Bucs in 2 different ways this year. They get it done again here, in my opinion. And whatever the spread is on this game, I'm taking the Saints.
It's 3.
Taking the Saints all day.
So I mean, I have to agree with both of you. I really can't add much more. Other than I hate it that these 2 teams are playing this early. I wish this was an NFC Championship game. And it should, in my opinion, a couple months ago it should have been. But the Packers certainly have made their case for where they're at, and there's no time or reason to argue on this podcast to do so. I just think it's a shame that this is going to go to waste, but it's not really going to go to waste. But you get my point. I obviously Tampa's our one of our home teams here. I'd like to see Tampa win. I know we talked a lot about the Bucs being in this position, living down here, and we were talking about going up and hanging with the Deuce for the Super Bowl. But the road definitely goes through New Orleans. Sean Payton's a genius. Drew Brees certainly deserves another ring. Brady doesn't deserve another ring. The interesting thing is that a big shout out to my buddy Denzel, who now lives in Wisconsin. We're friends from Indianapolis. And he lives in Wisconsin. Always been a Packers fan. He's not bandwagon since he's moved up there. He's always been a Packers fan. And, he asked me who I was rooting for. And I said, the 3 Bs, man. And he said, who's that? And I said, the Bills, the Buccaneers, and Brady. And he was like, he said, what in the hell are you talking about? And I said, the Bills are the only team to ever go to 4 Super Bowls and not win one. Buffalo needs a championship, right? This is about their best shot they've had in a long time. If Breeze, hell of a player, coming towards the end of his career, him and Sean Payton, I can't believe they only have one. Thanks to Tom Brady, they only have one. So Breeze needs another one. I'd love to give him another one. And Brady, let's be honest, he doesn't need another ring. But damn it, if you get to watch a Super Bowl when a quarterback win 7 Super Bowls with 2 different teams, you just made history that'll probably never be repeated. That's a pretty cool thing to hang on to as a football fan. So, and I said, besides, Rodgers a dick, and because I knew where he was going to go with that. But I really don't feel that way. I just thought it was funny. But so I don't know. I think the Saints. If I have to pick a team, if you're going to make me pick a team, I'm going to go with the Saints. I'd be good with either one of these teams winning and advancing the NFC Championship. All right, so last game, the Rams and the Seahawks. Thank God Pete Carroll went home. It's where I like him to be, so we don't have to look at his mug chomping gum all the goddamn time. The Rams advanced. They should have. I don't know that. I mean, I think the Rams are good enough to beat anybody. I just don't know that they have their shit together enough to beat anybody. So I really don't see them. I think they could beat the Packers, but I don't see them beating the Packers Sunday.
Yeah, this game kind of worries me a little bit. The Rams have struggled up until last week when their defense decided to show up. I know Aaron Donald had 2 sacks. I think they had 5 sacks total as a team. But if you don't contain Aaron Rodgers, he's going to escape to the outside, and that's when he's the most deadly. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes. The Pack's favored by 6.5. I'm going to roll with them. I think Aaron's going to have a huge game there in Lambeau Field.
I kind of agree with Zach. There are some things that worry me when it comes to Packers, but it's not exactly the same thing. The offensive line outside of Bakhtiari getting hurt, which, by the way, the Packers signed Jared Valdir, who filled in for Anthony Costanzo and the Colts. Unfortunately, Valdir is not going to become the first player to ever play for two different teams in the postseason because he's on the COVID-19 list. So Packers have to advance for him to be able to play next week. So hopefully that happens here. But the Packers' offensive line is good. They're the top 5 offensive line in the league. Going up against Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is going to be able to get to the passer. That's just who he is. Michael Brockers once or twice going to be able to get there. Just who he is. But the main focus here for me is going to be, and I wish that they would just put a camera, have a camera and keep it in a small box on the top corner. What Jalen Ramsey and Devontae Adams are doing the entire game. I want to watch those two all game long. That's going to be the matchup of the season. You have a receiver who had 18 touchdowns, led the NFL. He had 98.5 yards per game, led the NFL. Jalen Ramsey only gave up 309 yards all season long, the best in the NFL. He's tied for second in the NFL in completion percentage given up with 50. This is going to be one of the most orgasmic matchups of the NFL season. I wish I could just sit there and watch only this all day long. But I do believe Devontae Adams is too goddamn good. And the NFL, the rules favor the offense. When it comes down to it, that's just what it is. And Devontae Adams is going to be able to get Jalen once or twice in this game for big plays. He's going to be able to get a touchdown. And that's going to be the difference in this game is just that little bit because I think overall the Rams match up really well with the Packers. They just do. They're able to run the ball well on the offensive side. Cam Akers is a beast for the Rams. They can keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, but Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are just too good. Aaron Jones in the backfield. Somehow, some way, the Packers get it done.
I would like to just point out that Jeff used the word orgasmic in the podcast.
Surprised I didn't have more reaction.
He weaved that into the podcast. Very well done, sir. You weaved it in, and it wasn't awkward. I mean, we could throw it in a lot of places, but it very seamlessly went through. So there's a little bit of NFL news kind of tied into these teams that we're talking about. The Matt LaFleur, the younger brother of Mike LaFleur, rather, the younger brother of Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, is on his way to New York to be the Jets' new offensive coordinator. The Jets hired Robert Saleh, and there's a rumor that Jimmy G's coming with them. So it appears to me, from what I know about these guys, I'm going to dig in a little deeper. We'll talk about this in the preseason episode that's coming up. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. The Jets may have just gone from joke to contender. And I don't know that they're going to contend right out of the gate in 2021. I don't want to say that, but it looks like this is a huge step in the right direction, and the Jets may be a team to watch. We'll have to watch this come down. So, and in addition to that, I don't know what the Lions are doing.
The Lions don't know what they're doing.
I guess. So the Lions hired for their GM the Rams scouting director. Did you guys know this?
No, I don't pay attention to what the Lions do.
So there was a long list of 8 candidates, a lot of former GMs on there, which, if a former GM sucks somewhere else, then don't hire him here. I back that. I don't understand how shitty coaches keep getting – Adam Gase keeps getting a job as a head coach. Norv Turner I call it the Norv Turner effect when jackass coaches keep getting hired. So same thing with GM. So I really don't want to argue that too much other than we've just got a scouting director. So either one, this guy, obviously as the Rams scouting director, he knows what he's doing. I think we can all do that. I agree to that. But does he know leadership? That's there's a lot more to being a GM than just calling the right shots in the draft and recruiting the right people. But I don't know what his history is. I don't know who he's worked with and that kind of thing. I just think it jumped out at me that this might be another Lions thing going here. And then on the flip side of that is they're looking to hire the Saints assistant coach, tight end coach, Dan Campbell, as their head coach. Maybe it's because Brian Flores came in as what was he a defensive line coach or linebacker?
He's a linebackers coach.
Linebacker coach. Maybe it's because they're like, hey, it worked down in Miami. Let's hire a tight end coach. I don't know, but this combination doesn't look real solid to me. But I guess we'll see with that. The last thing I want to throw in, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, either next week or in the coming weeks, is the Jags finally pulled the trigger and brought in Urban Meyer. And we'll see where that's going to go. I'm not real sure that we can argue that both ways, right? How this is going to work. So we'll talk about that. In the end, it looks we're all taking the Chiefs, and I'm taking the Bills. Hefe's taking the Bills. Zach, you're taking the Ravens, right?
Yep, going with the Ravens this week.
Okay, so Hefe and I are calling the Chiefs Bills AFC Championship. Zach is calling a Chiefs Ravens AFC Championship. We're all taking the Packers, and we're all taking the Saints. So we're calling for a Packers Saints NFC Championship, and we're getting down to what we all came to the party for. So pretty exciting stuff coming up. Anything you guys want to add before we go?
Another exciting weekend of football. Enjoy it while we have it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you were just talking about coaches and GMs and stuff. So as Colts fans, there's something. Obviously, Matt Eberflus, he started doing all of his interviews on Sunday for all the different coaching hires and whatnot. And I don't know, good news or bad news, you can make your own judgment. But he hasn't come up at all this week about getting a second interview or getting more interviews or being a head guy somewhere. So it sounds more like Matt Eberflus is going to be probably coming back to the Colts. I'm pretty sure he has a year left on his contract. Don't hold me to that. But Matt Eberflus seems like a guy that could come back. Seems like there toward the end of the year when the Colts defense wasn't doing as well. Maybe his name, wasn't valued as highly. But one thing that's interesting is that, we know Bill O'Brien is taking the job down there in Alabama, moving to college football, but Matt Eberflus turned down the Texans job. They offered him and he turned down the Texans job.
I wouldn't want the Texans job either. It's a train wreck down there.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want the Jags job either. So,
yeah.
Or the Jets job for that matter. I'm just glad he's going to be back with the Colts. And what it really comes down to, like with the Texans and the Colts, is he's looking at two things. One, he's looking at getting paid, right? Going to the Texans, even if they're a train wreck. I mean, a lot of coaches go because they want to build something and they want to get the experience, that kind of thing. But they want to get paid. That's their payday. That's what, contract incentives are for. When you come in as a free agent, you're looking to get paid. So Eberflus made a decision of whether to go to the Texans and get paid and put head coach on his resume to open up future positions, or to stay where it's working. And I don't want to overplay that, but I think that's important to note that he, if the Colts were 7-9, he would have gone to the Texans. If he thought that this was a one-off shot and the Colts were going to go to 7-9 next year, he would have went to the Texans. So it tells me that he's bought in and he really believes in what they're doing and where they're heading, what they got going on. And that's good news for Colts fans, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that does it for this week. We want to remind you to be sure to show us some love, share with all your friends, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help us get the word out. And, if you agree with something we said, then please give us some feedback. If you don't, then go yourself. No,
San Diego.
Just kidding. Lighten up. Just kidding. So obviously, big weekend of games. We will see you back here again next week, where we review the games from the weekend, and we will talk about the AFC and NFC championship game coming up. And I think we're going to have a special guest next week, hopefully. So until then, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the games, and deuces.
Damn it! Who typed a question mark on the teleprompter?
I'm Ron Burgundy.